I studied bankruptcy law. While studying this week's case brief, I found that the bankruptcy court is a specialized court that handles cases related to bankruptcy filings. While it operates under the umbrella of the federal court system, it functions separately from typical trial court. Bankruptcy courts specifically deal with the legal issues surrounding individuals and businesses that seek relief from debts and manage distribution of assets in bankruptcy cases. I also learned from the case legal brief and understood clearly about Chapter 7 bankruptcy proceedings. In Chapter bankruptcy proceedings, unsecured debts are generally eligible for discharge, releasing debtors from any legal obligation to pay them. If the bankruptcy court discharges these debts, then the creditors will not receive payment for those debts. Discharge essentially wipes out the debtor's personal responsibility for these debts, leaving the creditors without recourse to collect from the debtors. Those debts will be declared non-dischargeable if the court finds fraud or misrepresentation. This means that even after the bankruptcy concludes, the debtors would still be legally obligated to pay the non-dischargeable debt to the creditors. This is why non-dischargeability is significant for creditors. They may lose out on collecting these debts entirely if the court doesn't agree with the fraud allegations. In bankruptcy proceedings, the filing of a petition for bankruptcy is done by individual or business entities. And almost all bankruptcies are voluntary petitions. So entities files petition on behalf of itself. But there is automatic stay. The petition acts as a stay against creditors taking any action against the debtor. Creditors may not attempt to recover the debts, enforce judgment, or place liens on property. All creditors must rely on the bankruptcy court when seeking payment from a debtor that has filed bankruptcy. There is priority of claims. The bankruptcy court establishes a priority among the creditors. Establishing priority is vital because it may determine which creditors get paid and which do not. To have the best chance of collecting the debts, it is important as a creditor to have higher priority. There is debtors exemptions. The bankruptcy court anticipate debtors coming out of the process with something to live on. As a result, bankruptcy allows debtors to keep some limited assets known as exceptions so as to permit a fresh start. States have been permitted to create their own exemptions, and they vary widely from state to state. To avoid debtors that state shop in order to use the state with the most generous exceptions, the law does require that a debtor live in a state for 2 years prior to filing bankruptcy to utilize that state's laws. Chapter 7 is liquidation proceedings. This type of bankruptcy, also known as liquidation, allows the bankruptcy trustee to make an accounting of all the available assets in order to pay off creditors in the order of priority. Once the available assets are spent, the remaining debt is discharged. Under Chapter 7, a debtor can be an individual or business entity. In 2005, Congress passed the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act in an effort to curb what many, especially creditors, consider to be abusive bankruptcy filings. The major piece of BAPCPA involved requiring Chapter 7 debtors petitioners to pass the means test. Congress wanted to keep wealthy individuals out of Chapter 7. To apply the means test, the debtors must make less than the state's median income. The courts look at the average of the last 6 months' income to make this determination. If the income is less than the median, then the debtor can move forward with Chapter 7. Chapter 11 is about reorganization. It provides a process for businesses to rehabilitate themselves and continue to operate free from the burden of debts that it cannot pay. In most cases, the business will retain possession and control of the business through the bankruptcy. The business must present a reorganization plan. Chapter 13 is about adjustment of debts, whereas Chapter 7 can grant a discharge relatively soon after filing. Chapter 13 serves to prolong the time the debtor has to make payments on the debt before discharge can occur. Under the plan, debtors must make payment on their debt between 3 to 5 years before receiving the discharge. Chapter 13 is available only to individuals and not to businesses. This is the end of the summary of the bankruptcy court. Thank you very much.